In a world of lifeless grids and bolt-together rigs, something has been lost. The soul of racing. Aluminum profiles are strong and precise, but real race cars aren't T-slot extrusion. They're sculpted, welded, built to endure. Enter the Fanatec Clubsport GT cockpit, a rig that ditches cold angles for raw steel and racing spirit. Today, we put it to the test. Welcome to the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and today we're getting hands-on with the Fanatec Clubsport GT cockpit. This is a serious high-end racing chassis from one of the biggest names in all of sim racing. And I gotta tell you, this is no lightweight rig. It is built from 50mm steel tubing, powder coated in matte black or white, and it's designed to handle the most powerful direct drive wheelbases. Fanatec sells it for $850 with an optional seat for $350, or you can mount any side-mounted seat with the included rails. Adjustability is where the Clubsport GT cockpit really shines, with its sliding radial blocks, tool-free adjustment, and multiple driving positions from GT to rally or even formula. This chassis is built to compete directly with your typical aluminum profile chassis, and it has a bunch of add-ons included with it, like built-in cable management system and this really awesome monitor stand integrated into the rig that'll hold up to a 49-inch widescreen monitor. We are also testing some key accessories along with the chassis, like you can see that giant computer up on that PC tray that'll set you back $100. We've got the keyboard holder for an additional $160, the accessory bars for $80, and the shifter mount for $150, which can be purchased and mounted on the left or right hand side. The only thing we're skipping is the inverted pedal mount for an additional $80. I did two different live streams that were an unboxing and assembly of the Clubsport GT cockpit, so if you want to see every detail of how it went together, I have a link to those videos in the description here today. But let's go ahead and talk about all the adjustability and what it took to get this all equipped and set up the way you see it. Starting with the wheel deck, it slides back and forth about 6 3/4 inches on smooth, tool-free locking sliders. I mean, look at how cool that is. That is just awesome, and then it just locks down with those levers. On top of that, it has two different height adjustments that you can install the wheel deck at, and it can be adjusted at an angle anywhere from roughly +4 to -3, or whatever those numbers mean, in angle adjustments with 6 different lockdown positions with a quick lockdown bolt. Now the wheel deck is a little bit narrow, coming in at only 13 1/8 inches wide and only 5.5 inches front to back, but it is pre-drilled for all common wheelbases. So 4 bolts later, we had a wheelbase mounted to the rig and perfectly aligned for our driving position. The pedal deck is a bit more complex, but follows the same tool-free adjustability. It slides nearly 12 inches front to back. I mean, how cool is that? Look at how smooth that is. And then it just locks down with those same levers. It's that easy. And then the height and angle adjustments are just as easy. Loosen 4 levers, reposition the upper plate into different slots, and it gives you 3.5 inches of vertical adjustment with plenty of angle options. Mounting is simple, thanks to left and right slots that fit almost all common pedal sets. The deck itself is slightly narrow at 15 inches wide by 18.5 inches deep. But 4 bolts later, my pedals were locked in and dialed in to my liking. I will admit, at first I was a little disappointed that the wheel deck only had 2 different height options. I thought that was limited. But then I realized how much freedom you had with the height of the seat when it comes to making adjustments. It locks down a lot like that pedal tray does. In the end, you have about 3 inches of adjustment at the back and 5.5 inches at the front, with a bunch of different slots that give you a bunch of different angles and heights to choose from. The seat also stands on what I would call standard rails, which gives it about 12 inches of front to back adjustment with that pull-up lever for quick changes. Now let's talk about actually driving the Fanatec Clubsport GT cockpit. And I have mine set up in kind of a GT driving position with the seat back a little bit angled. My pedals are just a little bit lower than my seat, and I have that wheel perfectly pointed at my chest. I've got a little bit bend in the elbows, a little bit of bend in the knees, so I'm going to be driving in comfort for very long stints. This gives me an aggressive yet comfortable position that works across all disciplines of racing. Right off the bat, the wheel deck is perfectly positioned for my driving style. This minimizes any unwanted friction or resistance when turning the wheel and allows for hours of comfortable driving. The overall strength of the entire upper assembly is very strong, and you will see zero movement out of the tubing or sliding rails. I did see a hint of flex at the middle of the wheel deck area. This did not happen at all while driving, but if I do a heavy push and pull test on my wheel, I can make it flex. Despite that forced flex, I would still call the overall wheel mount super strong. My overall opinion of the wheel deck on the Clubsport GT is it is one of the all-time best. Between the ease of adjustment and the overall strength, it is just one of my favorite designs ever. So that takes us to the pedal deck, and it is just as solid. I didn't feel any movement under my feet, even when pressing hard on the pedals. In a lot of rigs, you will feel a bit of movement, and our close-up footage often reveals some minor flex. But with the Clubsport GT, there was no flex, none at all, even with the heavy-duty load cell pedal. Plus, the freedom of movement for adjustments is fantastic. I was able to tweak the height and angle to get everything right where I needed them to be. This allows for effortless braking with full pressure, without the pedal deck moving me around in my seat. Once again, Fanatec has hit a home run with one of my all-time favorite pedal deck assemblies. That's 2 for 2. Now, I will admit I was a bit skeptical about a two-piece seat, and even on our live stream, people are questioning, would it creak or flex or not be as strong as a one-piece seat? Well, again, I was pleasantly surprised. Because after my testing, I can say I'm impressed. There was no noise, there was no movement. It feels like a solid one-piece racing seat and is more comfortable than many that I've used in the past. The thick padding and built-in lumbar support seemed excessive at first, but once I sat down, I realized it's exactly what my aging back needs. The seat is medium-sized, a bit narrow at the thighs, but roomy in the midsection and back. Unlike many racing seats, I didn't have to squeeze into it. And now I've spent hours in this seat, both racing and editing, and it remains just as comfortable. But the best part? The breathable mesh covering. Unlike Alcantara or vinyl, this stays cool. It minimizes heat buildup during long sessions, which will be a huge plus when summer rolls around. So I didn't get any noise or creaking out of the seat, and I didn't think I was getting any flex whatsoever, but when I look at the footage, you can see it is going on, but I'd swear that's the same kind of flex that I've seen out of just about every seat on the market, including racing seats. Those will flex too. So in the end, the Clubsport GT is now 3 for 3, and that takes us to the monitor stand. Once again, I was skeptical. I was going to be using this 49-inch curved widescreen. The thing's a tank. It weighs a metric ton. And I wondered, will it wiggle? Will it wobble? But once again, I was surprised. I was surprised by how well it supports a large, heavy screen with impressive stability. There's plenty of front to back and height adjustment, which makes it easy to position the monitor exactly where you want it. However, the top of the monitor does lean slightly backward, and there is no built-in adjustment to correct it. Not ideal, but not a deal breaker by any means. I'm usually skeptical of integrated mounts since they tend to be flimsy, but this one holds its ground rather well. With that said, aggressive wheel movements do cause a slight vibration. It's barely noticeable while driving, but it does show up on camera once again. Now still, compared to most attached monitor stands, this one is far more stable than I expected. And honestly, I love the clean, integrated look. It saves space and completes the full cockpit feel. So far, I've focused all of my energy on the basic chassis itself, which, just a reminder, the Clubsport GT chassis, black or white, goes for $850, and it's $350 for the seat. Now, with the core rig proving itself rather sound, it's sturdy, it's adjustable, it's comfortable, let's talk about the add-ons, the things you could do to make it even better. We'll go through all of those components one by one. I think I might have the biggest computer case in the world. This beast of a computer that runs on a 1200 watt power supply. So not only is it gigantic, but it's also extremely heavy. So I was actually a little bit concerned about the PC tray or PC deck, if you want to call it that. But actually, it ended up holding this monster computer rather well, and the deck is so large it even holds the power supply right here. You're looking at about a 21-inch wide by 12-inch deep deck, which is more than enough room for most cases. So then I thought, am I okay with my expensive computer sitting way up top up here so precariously? Maybe I better strap this thing down or something. But it turns out that the Clubsport GT is so heavy and so stiff, strong, and stable that no matter what I did, it didn't budge. I can even slide the rig around on carpet sliders and it doesn't budge at all. Plus it adds that great cable management. For $100, this add-on is a no-brainer. It keeps your system secure, out of the way, and free from dust that would otherwise collect if it sat on the floor. Next up are the accessory bars, which at first I thought were kind of basic, but after mounting my gear, I gotta say I'm kind of impressed with those as well. They're super strong. I mean, you can use them to help move the rig around, and they worked out great for things like my Stream Deck, which I have right here, or my button box right here, or even for a webcam. That camera right here that is recording right now is on one of those bars, and you can see how stable it is because I'm actually driving with an 18 Newton meter steering wheel right now. So it is being subjected to force, and the whole thing is very strong, and again, rounds out that cockpit feel, keeping all my controls right where I need them to be, and I even have my headphones sitting over here, which works out kind of nice as well. So at $80, it's a solid upgrade if you need extra mounting points. The shifter mount seemed a little expensive, and while it initially felt a bit overbuilt for just a shifter, I have to admit, it's pretty slick. The front to back adjustability made it easy to fine-tune my setup, and this thing is rock solid. I didn't add a handbrake, but I have no doubt it could handle both the handbrake and the shifter. The plates are pre-drilled for most common bottom-mounted shifters and handbrakes, though there's no height adjustment for the shifter deck. At $150, it's not cheap, but since the mounting bar also serves as the keyboard holder, the price makes more sense. Now the keyboard tray is seriously impressive, but it does come at a cost. Actually, let me stop to show you what I mean here. So this thing moves in every way you could possibly need it to. So I have it way far away, so it's nice and in my zone when I'm driving, but it's not blocking my button box. Now, if I wanted it closer, it's got 3 different pivot points, so I can pull it around like this, I can swing the arm back like that, I can even tilt the tray and flatten it out. So even if I were to pull my seat back, we can actually put this right here. So if we wanted to do some browsing, I actually have my mouse on the shifter plate here, and I could actually do some browsing. Now when it comes to editing, I actually want something a little more comfortable than way up high like that, but I can actually put it on my lap, and with it at the shifter, with my mouse on the shifter plate, I can sit here and edit for hours, and I'm quite comfortable. The tray is nice and big, so there's enough room not only for the keyboard, but you see I have my cell phone there. Or if I'm using the shifter, I could have put my mouse and mouse pad up there and even put a little bit of angle if it's not going to fall off, and we'll be fine just like that. So it is rather remarkable, but it doesn't end there. If you want to take this off, this tray is actually mounted on a Visa adapter, so you could actually mount a monitor here if you want like telemetry or something else on there. So it's endless what you can do, but again, it does come at a price. You're looking at $160 for the tray and another $150 for the shifter mount, bringing the total to $310. Ouch. With all the accessories added, our total price jumps to $1,690, but for everything. And I have to say, the way these add-ons integrate into the rig is absolutely fantastic. It truly feels like a race car interior, but designed with a sim racer in mind. Every control is exactly where I want them to be, every accessory is within reach, and everything feels just right. Best of all, The only visible wires are a power cable and an internet cord going to the rig. Everything else is neatly on board and out of sight. And with it fully loaded, it's a perfect time to just take in the full look of the Clubsport GT chassis. I have to say, I love the black and white contrast. It just screams race car, with no mistaking its purpose. That said, it's definitely on the larger side, especially in length. It's more stretched out than some rigs, but that's what gives it so much adjustability. It's also heavy, but let's be real, you probably expected that just by looking at it. The beefy round tubes and the elegant cross bracing inspire confidence that everything will stay secure. That monitor needs to remain stable, and that PC can't just be shifting around, and most importantly, no flex or movement when racing. The Clubsport GT is up to the challenge. One of the reasons this chassis looks so clean is its cable management. Do you see any wires dangling down? Hell no, you don't. The oval pass-through holes let you run wires inside the frame, something I've never seen on a profile chassis and something that just finishes off one of my favorite rigs. I think that tells you just about everything that I can about the Fanatec Clubsport GT cockpit, but in case you missed anything or to make it perfectly clear, let's go ahead and break it down with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line, starting off with the good, and that being great looking rig. Super strong. Easiest and best pedal adjustments ever. Easy and best wheel deck adjustments ever. Best wiring management ever. Comfortable large seat. Pre-drilled for common gear. Base chassis includes monitor mount. Great accessories. Real cockpit feel about it. Comes in black or white. And now on to the not so good. Starting off with, well, a few of the welds are a little on the ugly side. Monitor tilts back slightly. Expensive. Pedal deck a bit narrow. Large and heavy. Would like more mounting hardware included with the accessories. And now on to the bottom line. In the modern sim racing world, it's really been overwhelmed by profile chassis, and I don't want to take anything away from profile chassis. They are extremely functional, they're extremely efficient, they're extremely strong, and they're extremely good at doing what they do. However, race cars aren't built off of 90-degree square angles out of bulky metal. They are actually pieces of art. They are curved, bent metal that creates passion. It is functional art, and that has been a big reason why I've always been such a fan of race cars since childhood. And why can't our sim rigs exhibit that same feature, give you that same kind of emotion? And I just don't get that from a profile chassis. So that is my biggest argument against a profile chassis, and my best argument for the Clubsport GT cockpit. It is a beautiful rig, and it has a lot more race car vibe to me than your typical squared off profile chassis. But it's not just about the looks, because this chassis actually holds its own against a profile chassis. It has a ton of adjustability, maybe not the endless adjustability of a profile, but more than enough from a very short to a very, very tall driver, and you can do it so easily. What would take you at least 15 minutes to just move the wheel deck on a profile rig is only going to take you less than a minute to do here with the Clubsport GT. And when it comes to strength, it is nearly as strong as a profile chassis, and that is pretty impressive. Now that does come at a cost. At $850 without the seat, this is a premium platform costing you a lot of money. And if you include the seat, you're up to $1,200 whether you bought theirs or a third-party one. But I gotta tell you, that is right in line with the high-end profile chassis where you're still gonna spend well over $1,000, so it's right in line, comparable to the profile chassis there as well. So at the end of the day, you're getting more than function. You're getting a rig that is aesthetically beautiful. You're getting a rig that is extremely adjustable, and it uses these really high-end feeling sliding blocks. When you move those, the precision, the engineering, it actually justifies the price quite a bit more than even a profile chassis. So the Fanatec Clubsport GT cockpit or chassis or sim rig has jumped up to one of my all-time favorite tubular chassis rigs, and it is a combination of the beauty, the strength, and all that adjustability mixed into one. I am very impressed, and it's a rig I'll probably drive many, many miles in. So I hope you've enjoyed our review of the Fanatec Clubsport GT cockpit. If you have, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and if you want to help support the show, you can use our link in the description below. If you're considering one of these, we get a little commission, and that helps keep the lights on here. Thank you for watching. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track. I mean, check out how smooth. Whoa. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be fucking kidding me. We just powered down the whole computer.